All right, we are thrilled to bring in the great George Wrighster, one of the great Oregon tight ends of all time, also the host of the Unafraid Show. George, what's up, man? How you doing?
Man, I'm happy to be here. Happy to be talking about the number one team in all the land. Happy to be talking about some college football. Man, this is
Absolutely,
this is greatness right now. This is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, number
absolutely.
one in the world, Craig.
Not just the city, but the world, Craig.
I want to start right there. Obviously, the Ducks are ranked number one over the weekend, first time since 2012. It's definitely a big deal. I mean, there's a reason we're starting with it. We talked to Dan Lanning last night in his weekly press conference, and he was kind of asked, what's your reaction to this? What's it feel like to be that number one team? And he said, in classic Dan Lanning fashion, who cares?
Yeah.
Um, do you believe him? Do you think that people in this program don't care at all? Do you think he's telling the truth that he, really doesn't give a crap what this is?
I 100% think that he appreciates the respect, but I definitely don't think that he cares. Because after the Ohio State game, we were texting back and forth, sent him a congratulations, everything, and I also sent him this Kobe meme. I mean, this Kobe video. He said, "Job's not finished.
Mhm.
We're up 2-0. What's there to be happy about? Job's not done. Is the job done?"
Yeah,
so so it doesn't matter because, like, yes, it's good to get the respect, but at the end of the day, like, you got to stay focused. And I believe, and you can tell me if you agree with this too, J Stu, is that success is harder to deal with than failure. Because when you fail, it's easy to say, I got to get back up and work. But then when you have success, it's hard to stay up there and work harder than you did to get to that success.
yeah, I totally agree. And it kind of flows into what we saw this past week, coming off of an Ohio State win. Right, you talk about the emotional high. Being able to celebrate with the fans, the college, environment, just the electricity that was in that stadium after the game. And then you have to turn a switch on and say, "Hey, you got to go back out there and do it again,
Yeah.
and you got to do it against an inferior opponent
On
that
a
you're supposed
short
to beat."
week.
Yeah, on a short week, and you're traveling,
Yep. And
and
everybody
so
was calling that a trap game. They're like, "Oh, it's a
yeah,
trap. It's a trap." And
so
I
you kind of
was,
have to ignore the noise,
yep,
right? There's a lot that you have to do mentally that a lot of good teams don't figure out, but great teams do.
yeah. And I was hoping, well, I was confident that Dan was going to do it, but I remember talking to Dylan in the locker room too. I was like, "Yo, next week is actually going to be the hardest week," and he was like, "Man, you are 100% right because it's a short week. Your emotional high." And I was like, "You got to be tougher on the team and yourself this week than any other week." Because and everybody's gonna be upset. They're like, man, why is everybody acting like this? Because they know what it is. And it was gonna be a good litmus test for me to see what this team was really about and how they came out in this Purdue game. Because if they came out flat, I was like, oh man, I don't know.
Mm,
I don't know if this
yeah,
team can actually turn it on week after week. But the fact that they came out, played well, and then Dan did something really cool that I appreciated was that there was two times in the game where he would have ordinarily gone for it on fourth down, like fourth and one, fourth and two, but he opted to kick field goals.
Mhm.
He knew he was in full control of the game, but he's like, I got to get these guys some field goal reps. They ended up missing both of them, but
yep,
he knows that to win a national championship, he's got to give them dudes some reps and give them opportunities because at some point in time they're gonna have to make a kick.
yeah.
I don't know when that's gonna happen. Uh,
Hey,
so,
hey, hopefully it's only once
uh,
for the rest of the season that you gotta make it. I'll take I'll take my 50-50 chance, my 70-30, whatever it is. Just if it's only gotta be one, I'll
mm,
be happy.
yeah, that's
So
true.
is it safe to say that very possible, like it could be possible that this Purdue game was more important than the Ohio State game?
Let's be careful.
I'm just saying because you have to stack games,
Yeah.
right? We witnessed earlier this year with Alabama and Georgia, like Alabama goes down there to what's the team in Tennessee?
You talking about
Vols.
Vanderbilt?
Oh, Vandy.
Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Yeah. They go down there and get smacked. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like you have to capitalize on these games that you're supposed to win after an emotional win, right?
Yep.
You have to be able to. And so if you don't, then that game really didn't matter. So it's always the follow-up game, in my opinion, because we talk about good players, great players, but then you talk about elite players. Elite means, oh, I'm doing this every Saturday.
Yep.
I get
Oh,
what you're saying, Jay Stu, but I mean, this was an important game, yes, against Purdue.
Hmm.
Absolutely. You need those games. You need to stack those games to get to a national championship. Beating Ohio State, that proves that you can win a
Yeah.
national championship, beat a team like that. So, yes, it was an important game against Purdue. Absolutely big win, but I would push back saying it was a bigger win than against
well,
Ohio
Hmm.
State because that
Yeah.
is the game. That's
yeah.
the
Yeah.
win that
See,
you need at the end of the year.
See, I think that it is that the Ohio State game was more important in terms of the confidence and the belief that you can do this
Do
and the
it.
respect that
Yep,
you're
Yeah.
going to get.
totally.
But then the Purdue game was more important to see where your team is.
Mhm.
Like it's a
Yeah.
litmus test for where your team is. And I want to point out something that I haven't really seen people talking about this week, about this past game. Let's go back to the Ohio State game. Trayshawn Holden catches a big dig, ends up getting kicked out of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did anybody see him at the Purdue game?
He I'm
No.
pretty sure, yes, he was there on the
Yes,
sideline. He did
yes.
not
He
play.
was there on
It
the
was?
sideline, had a
Oh, okay.
towel
Yeah.
around his neck, and he was cheering. I mean, like
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
cheering, like no doubt. And do
yeah.
you know how many times he stepped his butt on the field?
None.
0
0.
times.
Yeah.
He was there for an emergency. He was there
Yeah.
in case break glass, in case of emergency, and there was no emergency. And so I loved the way that he handled that because he said, we're going to handle it internally. And now you couple that with what Kalen DeBoer is dealing with over at Alabama when you have one of their best players, Malachi Moore, kicking the ball, throwing his mouthpiece, refusing to come out. And then
Acting like a straight child.
yes. And then that goes unpunished, right? I mean, you can say whatever happened in the locker room, whatever, right? But it went unpunished in terms of the way that we see it as players.
Yeah.
And then the next game, you see after the last game that they just lost against Tennessee, their five-star freshman Odom, the wide receiver,
Mhm.
is retweeting tweets about, oh, why are they throwing jump balls to Ryan Williams? They should be throwing it to their 6'5" wide receiver. And then on the quarterback sneaks in that same game, you got the wide receivers out there shooting jump shots.
Just playing around.
Yeah, it is a difference in how. Now, granted, everybody's not going to run their program the same. However, there has to be a level of discipline and accountability. And you got to be, as a coach, being willing to lose if need be to preserve your culture.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like your culture has to be more important because Nick Saban, if Malachi Moore did that and refused to come off the field, I believe Nick Saban or even Dan or a bunch of other coaches, Kirby Smart, they
Mhm.
would have calmly called timeout, walked out on the field, and said, "Young man, look, either you bring your ass off this field right now, or
Hmm.
this will be the last time that you are on this field in an Alabama jersey."
It's all about setting the precedence, right? Leadership is all about precedence. If you
Mhm.
Yeah.
don't know, if the people that are following me don't know where the line is, they're going to continue to cross it every time. And
Yep.
if one person crosses it, then a whole troop and a whole army going to cross it. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So you got to set the precedence out the
And
gate.
and you
And I
can't get
think
mad at the fifth person
yeah,
because then they're gonna be like, "Why you ain't do book them like that?"
right. And the truth of the matter is, we both know that in the locker room, everyone is not treated fairly, right?
No.
But the precedence is always there. Set the precedence as far as how the standard should be and how you act and how you are a good sportsman. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because that's great. That's elementary school, man. Like
Facts.
we can't. You can't. That is not transfer to wins. That
Dude,
does not transfer to
I
wins.
remember I was coaching my middle son, who he was my youngest son at that point in time, but my middle son, we were playing flag football. And we were playing in the championship game. He's our first or second best player, and he's our quarterback. Nobody else is taking a snap at quarterback all season. And but he played defense too. And then in the game, he was being a terrible teammate. He wasn't chasing the ball down, all of this stuff. Snatch him out of the game. And he was like, "Dad, we're gonna lose." I was like, "I don't care." And his
Yeah.
teammates were like, "Are you gonna put K?" I was like, "No, he's been a terrible teammate. This is not gonna work. So
Hmm.
whatever happens, happens. If we don't win, that's
It's
on
all
you,
his
son."
fault.
And and then so that was probably like in the second quarter. Kept him out the whole third quarter. He comes up to me, and mind you, then he pouts for a minute, and then he starts cheering for his teammates. And I told his teammates, like, "Yo, you can win this game without him. Don't worry about it." And then he comes up and he was like, and we were on a timeout. He comes up, he was like, "Guys, I'm sorry. I messed up. Like, come on, go win it. Go win it, guys." I was like, all right. So like a few plays later, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Learned his
You get
lesson.
it. Yeah,
I
you
see
got
you. I see you, pops.
bro.
Pops over there.
I'm that
Pops
dad.
over there popping, boy.
My dad, when I was in high school, I was playing basketball. And I was tired. It was like summertime because I was playing football, doing 7-on-7, playing basketball in the summer. I remember we were playing at Cleveland High School in a summer league game. I'm loafing up and down the field. I mean court because I'm tired or whatever, just not into it. My dad yells out in the stands, "Scoto, take him out. He don't want to play. Take him out."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was the best player on the team. That's just the household I grew up in. If
Mhm.
you not
Yeah.
because my dad was a coach. If you ain't gonna help this team, you hurting the team. So you gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to switch gears to this, George. Obviously, growing up as a tight end, and you've got a special eye for tight end talent. I want to ask you about Kenyon Sadiq
Oh
because
yeah.
it feels like we got to see a little bit more of him in this game. Obviously, because Terrence Ferguson was out with the appendectomy earlier in the week, but it feels like we got to see a little bit of a breakout from him. What have you seen from him specifically in this game, and just kind of his growth so far at Oregon that maybe gives you that high expectation that I know a lot of fans have for him in the future?
Yeah, when I first saw him when he first came, I was like, "Ooh, that boy little." I was like, "Oh, he's
Oh,
little. I don't know if this gonna work." As him being a Y, like I knew that he was
mhm,
gonna be able to be a move tight end, spread him out because he can run. He got track times, everything. But when you see him, I saw him up close at the Ohio State game. He looks like he's been eating dumbbells.
he's big.
Yeah, he looks like
He's
he
gotten
has been
big.
Boy got a
managing that
regiment.
weight room well.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
got a
And
regiment.
And then in this game, I got a chance to see him be a Y, which granted, he's going to be more of a move tight end, as it goes forward. But the fact that he's able to now line up and block defensive ends, that there's something there. Because I like Terrence Ferguson a lot because I think he's going to translate to the NFL well because he's like a Jason Witten type. He's not or a Gronk where like he's not super fast, but he can make plays. He'll catch the ball and and that's the kind of guy that can stay in the league for a long time, like a Pharaoh Brown, where they're not, gonna necessarily be the stars unless they end up in a perfect situation like Witten did or whatever. But they are gonna be able to hang on because you can block and you can
Yeah.
do all those things. And to see that from Sadiq, I was highly impressed because at first they were using him like a gadget guy, and I was like, I don't know about this tight end gadget guy. This ain't D'Anthony. But they're actually using him to be able to get mismatches on the defense because when you bring in one of the hardest things for defenses to adjust to is personnel. So when you bring in two tight ends and two wide receivers and a running back, they don't know, and especially depending on how you line up, they don't know where to set the strength, and they don't know whether to bring in a fifth
Mhm.
DB or bring in an extra linebacker. Or if you're going to spread out, now you can spread them both out. Now you got mismatches all over the place. So he's helping to bring a different dynamic to the position room, and I think it also puts an impetus on recruiting that position better because that is a position that we are thinner at. And to see what they're both doing between Ferg and Sadiq is going to help with recruiting because now the
Mhm.
recruits are like, oh, I like this. We get screens, we get
Mhm.
fourth down catches, we make plays. I'm in.
Yeah. It's been interesting to see because obviously fans love Terrence Ferguson, and rightfully
Yeah.
so. He's been incredible in Oregon. But the past 2 weeks, past week especially, it's been kind of like, all right, we don't want Ferguson to leave, but like once he does leave, I'm kind of excited to see the Kenyon Sadiq show in Oregon.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
I like that as well because as you know, in the running game, you get a guy like that lined up in the slot. Now you got linebackers having to chase him, right? And you
Yep.
know what that does? That means the personnel, is a little slower.
Mhm.
And so
Hmm.
the running game opens up really nicely.
So now you're like, sayonara, buddy.
Yeah.
A little bit of
And
a go
and
ahead.
he's a willing blocker. And I live by the Chip Kelly rule: no block, no rock, buddy.
Yep,
Hmm.
absolutely.
I like that.
George, a little bit of a bigger picture question. What do you think for you has impressed you the most about this team so far this year?
I would say the cohesion,
Mhm,
in that they talk about together, knowing each other, because I have not heard any gripes, and I talked to some of the players. Haven't heard any gripes from players about playing time, and because Evan Stewart in the beginning of the season was not getting a lot of balls. And then when the Ohio State game comes in this week, all of a sudden he's getting the ball again.
mhm,
And you haven't had that incessant griping and frustration, because sometimes it's your game, sometimes it's not. And when you saw the running back, what's it, Harris, who just
Yeah, Jay
transferred in.
Harris.
Jay
Yeah,
Harris.
when he
That's our
scored a
guy.
touchdown, he was genuinely happy, and the teammates were happy for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
was
it
happy
wasn't one
for
of
him
them,
too.
"See, I told you I should have been doing this and this." Like, it was a genuine. Dan hugged them and everything, and you see guys who are genuinely playing for each other, and that is honestly like the best sign that you can see.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah, those are the best teams when you're actually playing for something bigger than just yourself, obviously, right? Because
Yep.
that's what makes football so special. It's a game that takes 11 guys on the field doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? And hopefully the play pans out. You know what I'm
mhm.
saying? And
Yep.
so, because every time it doesn't pan out, even if you do everything correctly, sometimes you just get beat. So I really enjoyed that, Jay Harris touchdown. I mean, we were texting Zach. I was like, man, because we've been basically waiting to see him
I was
all
Yeah.
year.
scared I was scared that you were asleep. That was late in the game. It was late on your time. I was like, "Oh, no. I think Jay Stu might have been asleep for that."
No, no, I watched that. Um, I got a question for you. Um, being at that game, right? Because this is my first time going back for a big game
The
like
Ohio
that.
State
Yeah.
game.
The Ohio State game. Because I went to a game in 2019. I forgot who they were playing. That's the type of game it was. and and previous before that, it was only bowl games that I've been to.
Yeah.
So you've been to a couple Autzen Stadium games,
Yeah.
and whatnot. What was that? Was that game something special in your opinion from like other alumni being there? Is it typically like that? Because
Um,
that was my first time going to a
okay.
game. I just want to know what your experience was.
So, yes and no. Yes, in terms of, yes, there's alumni at every single game and guys that we played with and all of that stuff. But it was special because the moment was so big.
Yeah.
And the thing that I have really appreciated about Oregon and what they've done with the branding and everything else, if you notice, that wasn't a football game. That was a performance. That was entertainment. And it started with the duck and the greatest showman thing.
Oh yeah.
They put on a performance.
Performance.
Yes.
They
And
had this
then
thing
here
dialed
comes
in months ago.
yes, and then the team comes running out. Then you got the go, Ducks, and then you got shout. You got the left my heart in Oregon. You got the other
Mhm.
song, and it's just like
A big
it's like
production.
yes, a production. It's like you didn't go up there to just go see Adele just stand up there and sing, even though it's amazing. No, you went to Bruno Mars. You went to uh
Michael Jackson,
yes, Michael Jackson, Beyonce. And that's what
Chris
Ohio State
Brown.
fans that I talked to said. Yes, they were like, bro, this wasn't a football game.
It
I
was a
went to
show.
a show.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And And that's the part that I just appreciate, that they've embraced that. They've embraced it on social media. They have, and that's what makes the brand so attractive to recruits, to families, to everybody. Like, I
Mhm.
talked to a couple of parents after the game of big time recruits that were there. They were like, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
They were like,
Perfect.
like, this was such a crazy environment. And people from the outside, they look at the stadium, they're like, oh, it's 56,000. It'll cap out at 60,000. Not that loud. My ears were ringing the next day, Jay Stu.
Yeah, my ears are ringing on the airplane.
Yes. And you just like, and it was just a feeling of, my goodness, I saw something special. You know, when you see something special, nobody needs to tell you that
Yeah.
this is special, because you can feel it in your soul.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When I got back, everybody's like, "Oh, did you go to the game? Oh, you got to go to the game? Oh, it looked amazing. Like, what was it like?" And
Yeah.
so I just had to ask you so that way I'm like not thinking to myself, "Oh, that was the best game that I've ever been
No,
to," because I haven't been to many.
it
So,
translated through the television.
Mhm.
My
yeah.
sister, who she played basketball at Cal State Fullerton, and but she's a Duck fan. Obviously, your brother played there. There's been, a lot of my friends, that she's close with and everything. She was like, George, honestly, I've never been more jealous of anything in my entire life than the fact that you were at that football game. She was like, I literally had to check myself because I was angry. I was like, why is he here? Why
Yeah.
is he
Yeah.
there and I am not there? I should have
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
I was like, sis, I got you if you was coming.
Mhm. Should have let you know.
Let's end it with this, George. Assuming that the Big Ten title and a spot in the college football playoff is the goal, and a very attainable goal at this point, what more do you need to see from this team before they get there, that you could feel confident in their chances once they are there?
Consistency, because a lot of people look at winning games and not winning games. No, you actually want to be peaking as you get to the end of the season,
Mhm.
because even in that Ohio State game, would either of you say that Oregon played perfect in that game?
Not even
No.
close.
And that's what makes me more excited.
Yes. Yes, is the fact that Dylan Gabriel missed a touchdown on the trick play.
Yep.
You had a interception called, not an interception, a
Missing kicks.
phantom illegal man downfield that wasn't it. You had a couple
Missed field
other,
goals.
yes, a missed opportunity on fourth down when Dylan should have gone out to the flat.
Mhm.
Like, there were so many opportunities that were missed, and you're like, wow, because if you win a game like that and you play perfect and you win by one, now you're
Mhm.
saying, "Oh goodness, we
Mm.
got to play perfect again."
Hopefully the
I don't know
next
if we
time,
can do. I don't
hopefully
know if
next
we
time
can
we
repeat that performance. And now
yeah,
you're like,
hopefully
we can do that again. That wasn't even the best.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay
So
Stu,
yeah,
you got anything else for me before we get out of here?
No, man. I just appreciate you jumping on, and just obviously, just being ambassadors of the Oregon program, um, is awesome. It's one of those things. That phrase, "What a time to be alive."
yep,
If you're an Oregon fan, you know, don't write this off because it doesn't come by often. So
That's special.
correct. Yeah, like, enjoy it, because sometimes you get so spoiled that you expect that everything's gonna be there every single day, and you got to soak it in and appreciate it, because magical times don't come very often. And if this is a season that we do end up winning a national championship, cool, right? But you don't know when the next time that's going to be, because you can have a great team next year, have an
Mhm.
injury at the wrong time, have something weird happen. And because people have gotten conditioned to, like, this Nick Saban, oh, 7 championships in 17 years. What are we talking about? That's not normal.
yeah, and it's
That
not
is,
going to happen often anymore either because
yes,
the college landscape is changing for
yes.
that very reason.
Yeah. And if you can put together a championship every decade, you have stepped into a territory that, and then you're in the conversation year after year. You have put yourself in rare air.
Yeah.
I mean, look at USC. I'm on their message boards. They are melting down right now. And truthfully, they shouldn't be,
Yeah.
because they haven't gotten blown out. their team is actually progressing in the right direction, even though they're losing. And their fans don't appreciate it. They're like, oh, fire Lincoln, bench Miller Moss, and all it. Like everybody wants these microwave instant
Yeah.
grit results. But the reality is instant grits suck. You got to put them hour-long grits on the
Unless you
stove.
unless you put that seasoning in there. Gotta put that seasoning in there.
I hope you're not putting no sugar in your grits, brother.
No, we don't. I do that sometimes. Depends on what I'm trying to do. I do that sometimes. Depends on what's going on. But definitely a grits, bacon, chopped up all the meat, eggs, butter,
Yes.
hot
Salt,
sauce,
pepper. Yes.
I
Winners.
feel out of
little
my
Texas
element in this
Pete.
conversation.
You know what I'm
See,
saying?
because if
Little
you
liver
didn't
mush.
grow up, I grew up in the South. I was born in Memphis, lived there till I was 9, family all there, played in Jacksonville. So I've been eating grits my whole life. And Jay Stu was in South Carolina. Where were you eating grits before you went to South Carolina?
No,
Sorry,
yeah,
before you went to
North
Carolina?
Carolina. Yeah, I've been eating grits ever since I was a jit.
Oh,
So
okay.
my family's from Georgia, so we be eating.
Oh.
Look, we be eating leftover meat. Put that in the grits.
Yep.
Pork chop it up,
Ooh.
put it in the grits. Yeah, that pork chop, that fried little pork chop, chopped up and put in some grits.
Bro. Hey, dude, I didn't even know this is quick because I know we got to go. But when I was young, when I was living in Memphis, I had only seen the little thin daddy pork chops. And then when we got older, mom, dad was doing a little bit better. My mom came home with these thick daddy pork chops. I was like,
Oh yeah.
This. I was
Yeah.
like, I didn't know that this is how it was. She was
Oh
like, yes,
yeah.
baby.
I wasn't familiar with your game.
Yes, exactly. That's the way a pork chop's supposed to be.
Yeah.
The Believe in Oregon podcast where you come for the Ducks talk and you stay for the pork chops. I love it.
Yeah, man.
George, thank you for coming on. Why don't you tell us where we can find you, the Unafraid Show and everything like that?
Oh man, you guys can find me a couple of places. Number one, Monday through Friday, Sirius XM Mad Dog Channel 82, 7 to 10 Pacific, solo radio show. We're gonna talk all the sports. And then also Unafraid Show on YouTube. All the college football talk that you could possibly need. And every single day, new stuff coming out. So you guys go check it out. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We love it. Thank you for coming on. We'll definitely have you on before the end of the year.
Yep, absolutely. All right, thanks.